We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, and 1410 KERI. Our guest in studio, Dr. Jeff Victor and Nicole Hudgens from Summit Bible College. You know, one thing I wanted to talk about was your curriculum. You mentioned something about classes like leadership, and looking at your website, which again is a great website. You were talking about you take books like John Maxwell's books on leadership.
Correct.
Fantastic books. His latest one, Failing Forward, I think is one of the best books I've ever read. It's fantastic. It's great advice for anybody. So you actually teach, for example, leadership from someone like a John Maxwell.
Yes, we have curriculum from John Maxwell, and there's several other leaders too that are very, very good.
So who does the teaching of Maxwell's books?
Well, we've had different people teach that. Like I know Randy Martin. I don't know if you guys know Randy Martin here in town. He's taught that class for us, and he's a minister. He has Covenant Community Services. He's an excellent teacher, though. But people like that, that have ministries here in town that are great leaders that have built things.
That have leadership experience.
You have leadership experience, yes.
Yeah, because, that's the kind of book that you really need somebody who has a leadership experience to be able to convey the essence of that book.
Yeah, and Maxwell is a little bit more corporate now, but in the early writings, he had a lot of biblical teachings inside of that.
Yeah.
So it's really a good blend on how to be successful even in a business.
Right.
And I should say that, too, some of the people that have gotten degrees from us have used our leadership degrees to, even in the secular world. They've been promoted and they've gotten jobs because of it. So it's
well, and again, why can't you? Because after all, if you're running your business on Christian principles, there's no reason why you can't succeed. You should be able to succeed.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Are you considered an accredited college?
No, we're non-accredited.
And what's the difference between accredited and non-accredited?
Well, there's different levels of accreditation. If you go to a local accreditation, it's called WASC. It's the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, and it's pretty highly regulated by the government. And that's one of the reasons why we don't want to be WASC accredited. You have to offer certain courses, and we don't offer courses such as psychology per se. We have a class, Psychology in the Mind of Christ. Everything we do is through Christian venues, Christian ways. But no, there's a lot of regulations, things you have to have that we don't really necessarily want, like full-time professors. We don't have any full-time professors. They're all adjunct professors. They work one class per quarter, and then they're on to the next thing.
So yours is a quarterly system?
Yes.
And if someone was to start as, say, their first year in college, how long would it take them to go through the whole overall program to get their Bachelor's of Science? Or what would the degree title be?
It'd be a Bachelor of Theology or a Bachelor of Ministry. And it takes between 12 to 18 months is all. A lot of them come in with credits already.
Yeah.
And we credit all that. We also credit ministry experience. And a lot of our people, they do 10,000 to 40,000 hours. That's how involved they are.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, so you're really looking at a fast-track degree then.
It is a fast-track program.
Yeah.
The classes are 8 weeks. They go to class once a week for an hour and a half. Then they do their final on the 9th week. It's an open book final.
And it's all in the evening, so they work and still have time for school.
Which is perfect.
Yep.
And then again, you were saying as far as the cost, you're looking at like $3,000 a semester?
$3,000 totally for the program.
For the whole 18 months or whatever it would.
Very inexpensive.
That's fantastic.
In fact, we give a scholarship to it. We give them a bonus if they complete the program under a certain time limit. We take tuition off of their program.
I won't mention the name of the school that I graduated from with my master's about 6 years ago, but it cost me $1,500 a class.
I know.
So it was around $30,000 for the master's.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was not cheap.
Well, we're doing it for several reasons. One is that people are in debt today because of that, because of education.
Sure.
And the other thing is we're trying to build up ministers. I don't know where your theology's at, but I have the feeling that Jesus is coming back relatively soon. Not necessarily this year or next year, but within the next 10 or 15 years, the Lord may be coming back because of world events. You guys talk about politics, and I do get involved in politics that way. If you look at Israel, Iran, and the nuclear threat that's there in the Middle East right now today, to me these are catastrophic events.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I've said this 4 or 5 times over the air, but I think Israel is going to be backed in a corner. They're going to have to take out Iran's nuclear capability.
Yes.
When that happens, Armageddon could be the next step.
Yeah, they mentioned in one of the articles in October they're going to hit Iran. I don't know if they would pre-plan like that, but to me it's it's a kind of a sign of the times and what's
Sure.
going on. So
Sure, and it's very possible. As a Christian, you look at that and go, well, it could very easily happen. And
Yep.
and I'm in total agreement with you, and I know players too.
Now, those are your personal views. Those aren't the views of the college. Is that correct?
that's correct. Thank
Right.
you for saying that.
Okay, I just want to be sure that
Yeah.
Summit
Yeah.
Bible isn't pushing for nuclear war.
Right.
No.
Right, and you're not
Well-
pushing any particular political candidate. We understand.
No,
That's
but
a
I just
violation.
have that urgency. I really believe that we need to equip people to go out there and to do God's work.
Yes,
And it does have a carryover to the secular
Sure.
world, too.
sure. So your undergraduate classes are all basically on Christian service.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. We are having a conversation with Dr. Jeff Victor and Nicole Hutchings from Summit Bible College.
You mentioned earlier that you have scholarships available. Number one, about how many scholarships might you have available and how much do you give on average? And number two, are loans also available?
Yes, everything is, to answer the loan issue, everything is put on a payment plan if they can't afford it. So it's an inexpensive program. They'll pay about $100 a month, and there's no interest on it at all, and they can quit it at any time. We don't bill collect or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if they have something that comes up in their family and they need to take a break and they can't pay, we just put them on pause, and then when they come back, they just resume their payment plan.
Yeah, that's nothing like the government.
Yeah.
I won't even tell you what I'm still paying on my college degree. I figure I'll be done paying for college about 6 months before I'm eligible for Medicare.
That far away.
Oh, very good. One for the little chubby guy in the corner. We do this all the time.
Now
Nicole.
you do.
Do you also have a placement facility? I mean, a placement group where someone's graduates and you help them find a job?
We do have I wrote an information sheet on that has contacts. It's called Why Bible College, and it shows different areas where you can use your degree, how you can be licensed for different things, and it goes from everything from a Christian counselor to a business person to whatever their ministry is, pastor. We just have different ways that they can search through the internet and find out leads and do that. We don't have a real formal placement service. I'd like to do that someday in the future, but we don't. There are groups that do that though, like Inter Cristo is one of them. So we have those websites listed on a sheet so they can follow up on what they can do.
So if people are interested, again, it's www.summitcollege.com.
SummitBibleCollege.com.
SummitBibleCollege.com.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things you say on your website is that the education tries to stay relevant to today's issues.
Yes.
Explain that. How can a Bible college be relevant to what's going on today?
Well, the classes that we have cover areas that are on people's minds and hearts today. For example, the homosexuality issue. We go over worldview, and we talk about what these things mean biblically, how to minister to people that are in different areas that they shouldn't be into, and how to be relevant. Our classes are right up to date on what's going on today.
Yeah, because I noticed you were tackling some issues on your website. Social maladjustment, euthanasia, abortion. So
Exactly.
you're going after social issues from a biblical point of view.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's also a group of pastors I've heard recently that are saying that the Bible does approve of gay marriage. I don't know how they find that, but that's the way they're reading it.
That's erroneous. Yeah, that's definitely not in the Bible. The Old Testament is against it, and the New Testament. And the New Testament even says the effeminate, are not of God. So, that's just a wrong translation, or they've retranslated the Bible, or they made it read the way they want it to read. So,
Well, that's one of the problems people can interpret. There's so many different interpretations of the Bible or verses or phrases, and we all know what God really meant.
And I don't know if I agree with there's so many interpretations. I mean, people tend to sometimes make it a smorgasbord. They just pick and choose what they want out of context. So
that's
I
how
mean,
they
I know.
interpret it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, but it's there. I mean, the
we have
writing's
classes on that too. Hermeneutics is a
Yes.
class on biblical interpretation,
there. Right.
which goes over the syntax, how the sentence was written,
Exactly.
how the words were placed in there, and the context in the whole chapter. And also it goes over the epistemology, which is the actual meaning of the actual words. And so there's no, and when you really get into hermeneutics, you really see the Bible is very clear. It is not against itself. It is not two interpretations. There's one interpretation and one truth.
There's a great book. It's a little bit of an older book by Townsend called The Humor of Christ, and it puts the Bible in a cultural context. there's so much more humor in what Jesus was trying to convey in the parables that we really take it a little more seriously than he meant it to be.
Yes, can I say one of those?
Sure.
I'll tell you an analogy, is when he picked up the mud in his hand and he spit in the mud and he put the mud on the blind man's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know this normally, but the mud there in Israel, they used to use, where he was talking about, to soothe eye soreness.
Mm-hmm.
And that same mud is in our state of Montana. You can actually take that same clay. I bought a jar of it once just to try it out and put it on my eyes and it does. It heals your eyes. What happens is the minerals from the mud goes into the eyes even when you're sleeping and you have a mud pack on your eyes.
Wow.
And Jesus was kind of comically spitting into the mud and saying, you want to see how this mud will work? Watch this one. And he puts the mud on the blind eyes, and the eyes became seeing. So he didn't really need to do that, but it's another way of looking at it.
There's a great book that my Bible study group has been studying. It's called The Story. And church over in Pismo Beach is where I picked it up. And now River Lakes Church is going to start doing the book on the story. It's basically layman's interpretation of the Bible from the New Testament through the Old Testament. From the Old Testament through the New Testament. Very interesting book called The Story.
Yeah. So we've got about 30 seconds left. Tell us your website and the phone number in case people want to get a hold of you.
Go ahead.
Our website is www.summitbiblecollege.com.
Highly recommend that website. It's a very, very good website.
Yeah. And our contact number is 661-328-1151.
Great. Jeff, Nicole, thank you so much for being here, and we'd love to have you guys back in the future.
Thanks so much.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.